everything starts with an idea, and everything, and if you stop ideas, you stop progressing. That's it. It's the end of it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Women Worldwide. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being here. Well, I want to dive right into today's episode because it's all about creativity and raising the bar, not just a little bit, but raising your creativity level to the seven-figure business bar. I sat down and had a conversation with Maria Brito, who is an art advisor, curator, and she's also an author. Maria is the host of a PBS TV series, and she's the author of a new book called How Creativity Rules the World. In our discussion, Maria shares her roadmap to passion and purpose and creativity and helps you to understand the difference between tapping into your intuition versus that voice of knowledge. Well, I think it's time for you to listen in, and Maria can share her journey and advice with you. Maria, welcome. Welcome to Women Worldwide.
Thank you, Deirdre. Thank you for the intro, and hello, everybody who's listening. I'm so thrilled to be here and spend the next few minutes with you.
Yes, well, it's great to have you here because we want to dive into creativity and taking it to really new heights in business and your life. But, I always ask this question, how did you even get started down this path of art and business and helping entrepreneurs with creativity?
Well, my story is actually the living proof that I want to help people, and I am an expert also on creativity because I was a corporate attorney and I practiced in big law firms, big, medium, and small law firms, to tell you the truth, in New York City for about 9 years of my life, and I hated it with all my might. And the reason why, yes, I was a very miserable person when I was doing that. The reason why I chose to become an attorney is because my parents had no options for me. Basically, they were like, in this house you are a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, something decent. This is the way that they actually framed it, right? And I was a very artistic child. You might say every child is an artist, and that's the truth, but I was a performer and I wrote plays and I was singing, and so that was not an option. It was a hobby for sure, but it was not an option. So I ended up believing what my parents thought it was. I mean, they meant well, but it was, they never respected who I was. And I ended up doing that, which was a good foundation, honestly, for a lot of analytical thinking, for writing, and being my own advocate, if you will. And I had been thinking for about a year before I quit that I really needed out and that I hated it. Because every time I changed law firms, I thought the next one was going to be better. Right. And the next one was going to be fulfilling. And the next one, the job, it was going to be better. The clients were going to be better. And no, it was not.
Maybe it
And
got a
so
little worse.
it actually got worse because it was a disappointment in knowing that I had really chosen the wrong thing. And it was, look, it takes a little bit of, it takes time and it takes digging into your soul to actually appreciate that it was not a mistake. It was a detour. And that's how I chose to look at it. And so when I had my first child and I was pregnant, and I was like jotting down all the ideas I had about what am I going to do, because as soon as this baby is out in the world, I will have to go back to the law firm. I'm not going to ever see him again because I was working, 14 hours a day. And not only that, is that if I enjoy the 14 hours, then maybe it's more palatable, but I hate it. So I start taking notes and jotting down ideas about what was going to be my next step. And by an elimination process at the beginning, was like, I am not going to go to another office. I'm not going to go to a job in a legal department in a big corporation. I'm not going to work in like management consulting or banks. What can I do, right? And so started to look at like things that I wanted to do, things that filled my purpose. And so I had a great passion for the arts because when I was a child, I was exposed to all these museums and galleries and plays and whatnot. And that's actually something that I felt it was very alive and vibrant, and I wanted to be a part of it. And I had been, since I moved to New York City in year 2000, I had been buying art for myself with my, the money I was making as an attorney, and building a very small art collection, but it was very nice. And I had bought an apartment with my husband, and I decorated it and put the art on the walls. And when I sold it, my broker told me, the apartment, the only reason your apartment sold so fast and above is because of all the art you hang on the walls, and because it looks so amazing, and you have a great eye, cultivate that. And so all these kind of things gave me ideas, because I was seriously at the end of my rope. And I I talked to my husband. I said, look, I drafted a business plan. I'm going to take the money out of my 401k, and I'm going to quit. I mean, the baby had already been born. He was about 3 months, and I had been back, because at the it's really hard to actually give birth to a business and a baby at the same time.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I had to wait until, he was like 3 months or whatever, and I was back in the office. So I had a little bit more time to kind of, like, the very few moments I had that I wasn't working, I was thinking about my next move. And I had been paying a lot of attention to the art world and how it was at that time. It was 13 years ago. There was no Instagram. A lot of the galleries didn't even have websites. A lot of things were very obscure. They
Mhm.
were, and so I said, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to revolutionize this thing. And I'm going to be the person who's going to demystify the access to the art world. I'm going to be the person who's going to write on blogs. I'm going to be the person who's going to, the social media of the time was just Facebook and Twitter, and it was very rudimentary. When you look back at what they offered at the time, it was a crazy basic. And I hired a web designer, I got a search engine optimization person, I hired a messaging woman, and off I went like crazy, talking to everybody who would listen. I shook every hand, and I had absolutely no preconceived notions. So I was the outsider who had a very open heart, because this is the thing that actually led me this success, is that I didn't come with the baggage, right? I had the baggage of being a lawyer, but I didn't have the baggage of being an art advisor or a dealer or curator. I didn't have that. So somebody would say, that person is horrible. I say, well, let me find out, right? Or like, don't do business with X, Y, and Z, but why not? So I was never really accepting what people were throwing at me. And part of being creative really is your ability to think differently in no matter what you do, right? I mean, we always, like you said at the very beginning, we are all creative and innovative, and we don't use not even a tenth of the
No.
capacity that we have to come up with ideas of value for your business, for your career, decision making. That is what creativity does, right? It actually allows you to come up with better ideas, so your competitors don't eat you alive, so your business thrives at any time. And that's the thing, right? Yeah, there are many factors that play into building a brand and a business, but if you're not creative, you're not going to stand out. When I opened the business, people really make fun of me, said you're never going to amount to anything because you do not study art, you have never run a business, and it's just really going to be an uphill battle for you. I mean, like, literally people declared my death, right?
Right.
And I was like, wait and see. And look, I mean, I, it's been extraordinary, the amount of, I mean, is it bad that I say that how successful I've been? But
I think it's
honestly,
wonderful that you say you are
I
successful.
honestly want everybody to get this message loud and clear. The reason why I became so successful and my business continues to thrive is because I was creative, and I continue to be.
To be
And
creative.
that I have to, when it's necessary to pivot, when it's needed to open out of passion, purpose, and desire to serve, but also to grow, right? Every time I need to add a new thing to the business, I do. Every time something intrigues me, I explore it. Every time I think that I have something new to say, I pursue it, right? I mean, some things you have to leave behind too. Some things I did, I worked with many artists in product collaborations, and I developed this huge line of accessories that was seasonal with different artists, and it was pieces of art, and I put them in the best stores in the world. It was so hard. And after 2 years, I was like, look, I'm chasing people to pay me, I'm fighting with factories. This is not worth it. Let me cut it out. Right. But it was, today people still call me to say if I want to advise or consult for them on artist collaborations for products, because I gained so much experience doing things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Quick
that's
question. Because it's a lot to unpack, but it's really interesting. Your journey is fascinating. And I'm wondering, so when you tap into your creativity and clearly you're moving forward with your passion and you're taking risks and you're not listening to whoever is sharing things with you, is this more gut and being aligned, or is it also research and observing? What is the combination that allows you to move forward with this type of confidence so that
it's
others, women worldwide listeners and viewers, can kind of tap into that?
it's both things. And I, like you said, my book has a whole chapter on why you have to marry logical thinking with intuition, because you need both. And obviously, your intuition is something you're born with, and your logical reasoning and thinking is something you learn through experience, school, education, etc. And the research part was at the time a delight because it was new. And so every book, every piece of report, every, new article. And remember also, again, 13 years ago, the amount of information that was available, it's not like today. We
No.
multiply the amount of information that, and the knowledge, it multiplies by the day, right? And so it was somewhat self-contained. Like, okay, I know that this is an excellent book. I know that this other one is very cool. And look, when I started, the art world was about a $30 billion business globally, and right now it's about $60 billion. So it means that in 13 years it doubled
Doubled.
itself.
Amazing.
Which made people say, well, but that's nothing next to tech. But dude, I mean, it's $60 billion, right?
Exactly.
It's a really big market. And there were things that at the time it was very, and I was already used to putting in like 16 hours. So, if I had to spend 4 hours a day reading and researching and making notes, and it was a delight. But the intuitive part was very important, because we tend to drown, or like silence the
Sure.
intuition, because we have already gotten so much experience, and that's the problem. And this is a very fine balance. And how do you actually listen to the voice of experience in this world and all the knowledge that you have gathered in your profession or through your research, and when do you listen to your intuition? And I think that without the intuition, I would have never gotten to where I am, because also I tend to spend a very good amount of time in silence every day, so I can clean my brain from clutter and my heart, and sort of like know what moves to do and what to do. And when I start listening to something in my brain for too long, I start thinking, is this something that I also feel in my body? Do I feel it in my stomach? Do I feel it in my heart? Or is it like, how do I recognize that this is something I have to do? And it's not just something that I have made up, or something that is just part of like what's in my conscious mind.
Mhm.
And the intuitive voice always told me, keep going, keep doing it, because
Don't stop.
there was no plan B. Like, I couldn't really fail, because I had nowhere to go to. See, I had already quit a career that was so long. I mean, in 9 years, right? I mean, it's
Sure.
like in this day and age, nobody has like this careers of like 25 years. That doesn't exist anymore, right? Like, I mean, we reinvent ourselves into so many different things. And it's part of also being creative, is that you go with the times, because you need to, because the market
Exactly.
asks for it. So
Everything's
the
changing around us. Hey, how can we stay static? You can't
No,
survive. And if
you can't.
failure is not an option, it's always good to pivot, right? Or fail fast and move forward. And
Yeah, I mean, like, look, failure is not an option when you put it in perspective, because I have had many failures running my business, right? But it was not a
sure.
failure that was a determinant and say, and now I'm closing shop and tomorrow I'm opening a restaurant. No, it was like, okay, I've learned, I know, and it's time to adjust. It's time to pivot, or I have to, like,
Mhm.
when I did the accessories line, which I absolutely loved, but at the same time, I was like, listen, we are making money, but the headaches are so gigantic. The fights with the factories, the missing
The
deadlines, and
large.
whomever is listening, and they do retail and they produce things. I mean, not retail as an e-commerce or a shop owner, but they produce and manufacture. They know this is the truth. Like, you're always fighting with someone on the chain, like the
Right.
factory or the people who you sell to, like the retailers who distribute your things that they don't pay on time. You have to have so
There's
much
always
control over that
something.
part. There's always something, but the point is that you people, and I wrote two chapters on the one about intuition and one about intuition and logic combined. And at the end of each chapter, I give the readers a list of exercises that they
Mhm.
can apply every day to what they learned in that chapter. And part of being intuitive is actually being able to listen to yourself. And we live in a world of distractions. The media is competing for our attention with worse and worse headlines. They pop on your phone, your tweets, the social media, television. We are inundated with
There's a
information that
lot of noise, all
is
that
too much.
external. It
It's too
clutters
much.
your mind. There's
It
very
doesn't
little space left.
and it does not allow you to listen to your internal voice.
Right.
And when it speaks to you, you dismiss it. And then things happen. When I have dismissed my intuition, I don't want to tell you the things that happened after because they were not pleasant.
Right. So talk a little bit about your book because I want everybody out there to understand that. I mean, just look at the title, Creativity Rules the World.
Yeah.
What are the biggest takeaways? You talked about the logic, the intuition. Well, what else do you want to share?
Well, the book is a blueprint, really, on how to come up with better ideas or ideas, period, but also how to materialize them because ideas are a dime a dozen, right? I
Mhm.
can be sitting here right now and say, I want to send someone to Mars. Let me just call Elon Musk. Okay, but that's really hard, right? I mean, I
Right.
don't think I don't think he's gonna pick up the phone right now. If I that's my mission, I will, put it as my goal, but it's not. So what I'm saying is a lot of creativity books fall short on two things. First, they don't give you the science, and I actually made a point of each one of the claims I made. I backed up by psychologists, are they are backed up by research, by neuroscientists. So it's not just me talking and writing about something I thought, right? So there is a lot of storytelling, and not just me, but throughout people in history, because people confuse creativity with artistic talent, and it's
Mhm.
just not the same. I mean, creativity is the ability to come up with ideas of value for your business or career that are relevant, right? Or for your
Mhm.
life in general. It doesn't, I mean, the book is geared towards career and business, but it's, these are skills for life, is being resourceful and whatnot. So there is it's a methodology that I developed when I was teaching this in companies because my clients who were buying art were so impressed by my pivot that they started hiring me to train their executives or their employees and
That's
managers
great.
on how to think outside the box and how to see
Mhm.
things from different angles, because that's the point, is that if you keep doing what everybody's doing and going to the same conferences and reading the same trade magazines of your industry, you're missing out on everything else. That's where the ideas and the best opportunities are, is in the interbreed, in the cross pollination of fields, is where we have our biggest successes. And so
Well,
it's a
it
methodology.
makes sense, Maria, because if you think about it, creativity, create, if we are watching and listening and doing everything like everybody else, then how do we find the time to actually create? So what you
Right.
said really resonates.
So it's a methodology, and the first part is alignment of, and also kind of understanding what really creativity is and aligning your mind with those ideas. And the second part is all about habits and attitudes, and how do you
Mhm.
nurture those things? Like, how do you become a risk taker? How do you become empathetic? And why is that important? If you don't know your customers and you don't know your audience, you can't really serve them and succeed. And that's part of being empathetic. I don't know any successful business that is not somewhat empathetic. The ability to be autonomous when everybody's telling you no, and you buy into the no, you already killed all the amazing $1 million ideas that you had in your mind, and you never even allowed to see the light of day, right? And so that those like it's a very long part of the book, because I think that's where people are missing out on more of those things. And the third part is all the tools on how to materialize them, which is really fun. And the last part is how to see the future, because I think that every incredible creative person we have witnessed in history invented the future at will. And so, like, did Leonardo da Vinci,
Mhm.
or Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was one of the most incredibly creative people in the world, and we are thankful that he had a biographer who had the time to write that incredible book about his life.
Yes, that was a good
And
book.
excellent. But also, if you think about it, the genius of Steve Jobs was not that he knew how to code or that he was a product designer. The genius was incorporating things in products that were not available anywhere else, surround himself with a team who knew how to execute, because he usually demanded the impossible from people, but people actually did it because he infused his ideas
Hmm.
in
And
his team,
inspired.
and he said we're gonna change the world with this. And so people are maybe listening, yes, but I'm not him. No, neither am I. But the point is that these are humans who are ordinary, and they start working in the fringes, because at the time that Steve Jobs was working with Wozniak out of his garage in San Francisco, the business of computers was in the fringes. I mean, only IBM was manufacturing computers that were like $1 billion, and they were just for companies, right? So everything starts with an idea, and everything. And if you stop ideas, you stop progressing. That's it. It's the end of it, right? I mean, you may get comfortable. There was a time, maybe about 20 years ago, or even, yeah, 20 years ago, you could have a business for a long time and be very comfortable and not
Mm.
change anything. That's over. It's
Yeah.
over, because everything is the speed of technology and societal and cultural shifts are demanding from careers and from business owners to constantly adjust the course. And without creativity, we perish, really. I mean, in the literal way, because you can't really keep up and thrive if you don't allow yourself to bring these ideas to the surface. And
So,
so,
Maria, what about somebody who is creative or thinks they're creative, but just like I'm an author, I've written several books. Sometimes you have writer's block.
yeah.
So, what do you tell the person who has a creative block? It's just a temporary. What do you recommend? How do you get past that?
Well, for the most part, the people that I have interviewed who suffer creative blocks, what gets them going is to do the work. And Stephen King said something very fun and interesting. The hardest part of being a writer is to write. And yes, so he said, every time I sit in front of my computer and I start typing, oh God, the ideas come. When Pablo Picasso was alive, he had a best friend who was a photographer called Brissé. He was from Hungary, and he visited Picasso one day in his studio and said, "Hey, Pablo, how do you come up with ideas, man? Because you paint, it it Picasso continues to be the most prolific artist in history. The most is certified by Guinness Record. Nobody has won from him. And asked him, how do you come up with many ideas? And he said, ideas start when I put my pen down and they start coming and coming and coming and they never end. You know what I mean? Because
Fascinating.
this man was so, and yeah, I wrote about that particular episode in my book because this man was so prolific that people thought, I mean, he had a demon or something. What was it, right? Like what he was like making pacts with the devil. No, Picasso was a workaholic because he was passionate about what he did and it gave him purpose and desire. And, you know, I know it sounds simple, but complexity is the enemy of execution. If I tell you, Deirdre, you have to go and, run outside and have a chamomile tea and make 3 phone calls to, break your, like dry spell, you're going to say, what?
What?
No, exactly. I mean, complexity is the enemy of execution. The truth is the work gets done when you work, right? And so a lot of people, for example, also in situations similar to yours, what they do to move themselves past the creative block is to do a lot of research because it's kind of impossible if you're doing research that you care about not to have ideas, right?
Right. And not to
I
get
mean,
excited about it. You
right.
want to do
Or
something
like,
with
or
it.
kind of like, oh, this is what I found online, or this is what I found in a book. Can I actually tweak this idea and turn it into something else? And I recently read an article, actually, it's a study, I read it about 2 days ago, that says that social media is a good thing for creativity only if you are sharing, if you are creating posts, if you're writing captions, because if you're just consuming, you're not getting a lot of the benefits of social media, which, I mean, there are plenty. I know it's vilified, but at the same time, there are plenty of benefits. And so
Well, it's the collaboration. I
it
mean,
is the
that's
collaboration.
the beauty. If you're sharing and you're building on something, we rally around content and it builds and builds and builds. So that's a really good point.
Yeah. So I think if anybody has that part of themselves where they feel blocked, they have to just start doing something, especially if it is writing or if it's something that has to do with taking a step forward. And it doesn't have to be a massive effort. I think if you think in front of your computer for 30 minutes and the cursor is blinking and you just write something, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Also, perfection is a huge enemy of
Oh, that's an enemy.
progress.
There is
It's
no
a it's
perfect.
Yeah, there is no perfect. People are like, once I have this next thing, then I get started, and that next thing never happens because
No,
those are
that's it. That
excuses.
model. If I have this, I'll do this and then I'll be this. No, it's I'm going to be this and I'm going to do this and then I'll have this. It's be, right?
Yeah, it's the be to have.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I'm 100% a believer in that kind of model.
Excellent. So I can hardly believe I'm going to ask you for parting advice, Maria. Please. I mean, you have shared advice all along, but is there anything you want to say to the Women Worldwide Network about really raising that bar and what they can do with their creativity?
Yes, I think that first, it's very important that you claim that you are creative already. And this has also been proven by science. I wrote it in the book. I quoted the studies. We are all extremely creative and we don't utilize not even 10% of what we have in terms of coming up with these incredible ideas. And so claim it. There is also an interesting discovery in neuroscience. It takes 66 days for your brain to actually make an important change. And this is the truth. It's neuroplasticity. This is not hocus pocus. It's not woo. It's just science. And I think if you commit to doing a variety of different exercises and activities, I have them all in my book. But I think also
Sure.
if you decide to do something for 66 days, that encourages your creativity. You're going to see incredible results. And people are going to say 66, but you know how many times people have been completely disappointed that they do something for 21 days and nothing happens. And so
Got to push it.
I'm not tricking anybody here. I'm telling you the truth. It takes 66 days for your brain to make an important change, and obviously sustained effort throughout your life. And these incredible breakthroughs and ideas take time and commitment. So I encourage everybody who's listening to bet on your ideas. Do not let them die. You don't want to have lost, 5 million bucks of ideas just because you didn't go forward and you didn't go and materialize them. We are in a time where 10 million new applications for businesses were filed between 2020 and 2021 is an unprecedented number. We want those businesses to succeed because businesses that succeed help everybody. It's not just themselves. They help the economy. They help taxes. They help, to create jobs. They help by bringing joy, right? And all those businesses will succeed or fail depending on how creative they are, because it's all about how different they can do things, how they can come up with ideas to get the capital that they need, how they can come up with the ideas to pitch what they have to pitch, right? So I encourage people to look inside and acclaim the reality that they are already very creative.
Well, those businesses need you, number one, and great advice, Maria. Two things, everybody remember, claim it. I am creative and 66 days. So thank you. Thank you so much for your time, for being here, and all of your great advice.
Thank you, Deirdre, and everybody who's listening. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, and one more thing. Where can everybody find you, Maria?
Yes. So my website is Maria and Brito, like my last name, Brito.com. And I have all my social media links there, links to the book. The book is available everywhere. It's published by HarperCollins. So you find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, and your independent bookstores. Do not forget to support them. They are the lifeblood of small economies and they love readers. So go and ask for the book. And excited to hear from you. If you happen, I'm on LinkedIn too. So drop a note.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And to everybody, thank you for being here. And as I always say, keep the feedback coming, the conversations going, and you know where to find me. I'm at Twitter. I'm at Dee Breckenridge, and also find me on LinkedIn. Well, thank you. And until our next episode, stay focused, energized, and feeling empowered. Thank you.